Are we back? We're back. It's the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He is Gordon. The email address, flotrackpodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube page where you can watch the show live, 12:30 Central, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Although next week we'll be on that abbreviated holiday schedule. Shout out to Caleb, who's filling in for Colt today on production duties. Gordon, how you feeling?
I'm doing great. It's almost Christmas. 9 days away. No.
Wait, really?
11 days.
Okay, I was going to say.
It's off by 2. I did my math wrong. My 5 and 4s got mixed up.
Whoops.
I'm excited. Holiday party is tonight for our company. You going?
Nope.
Why not?
Will not be there. Been a bit under the weather.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, let's talk about this.
You want to talk about this?
So we had a company-wide meeting.
Yeah.
There's 450 people at our company. Mm-hmm. Craziness, right? Companies. I was here when it was like 20. Big offsite, lots of presentations, and I look around, and you weren't there. Luckily, though, I grabbed your necklace.
Oh, you got that for me?
To make sure people knew. I don't want people to know that you missed it.
I told everybody I missed it. I had a good reason.
Okay, yeah. What was the reason?
I was getting a CT scan on my head. The reason why, last week, I'm walking into my kids' rooms. They have a bunk bed. I was grabbing a blanket for my daughter who was homesick, and I walked straight into the post. And when I say straight into the post, I mean without slowing down at all. I wasn't running into the room, but I was walking full, just no awareness that it was there. Smacked my head, and I said immediately, wow, this really hurts. Put an ice pack on it. Didn't really think anything of it. I looked in the mirror, and sometimes you imagine it to be much bigger than it is, and that was this. I thought, oh man, this would be this huge bump on my head, all the swelling. Wasn't that bad. But what was bad was the headaches. Lasted all weekend, and then into Monday, went to the doctor. Doctor said, you have a concussion, likely. You need to get a CT scan to make sure there's nothing worse going on in there. So that's where it was.
Getting a CT scan.
I never had that before. Had an MRI before, but never had a CT scan.
You lay on the bed and they put you in?
Yeah. Large machine. Very expensive large machine. I'll say that. Because you're like, wait a minute. I spent all that money and I'm only in there for like 20 seconds? Like I at least want my money's worth.
Now, let's watch a movie or something.
You pay for the machine, I guess. And then 4 minutes or something after I have the scan, I check my email from a doctor. All good. Cleared. And then, of course, today, headache. Not that bad. So all this to say, I'm using this as an excuse not to go to the holiday party. But I had a legitimate excuse not to go to the meeting.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be at the holiday party. There's going to be karaoke.
Yeah, be careful out there when you're walking around, though. Do not run into things. That's my life advice.
Was it? You were basically doing a cartoonish version of like stepping on a rake and the thing hitting you right in the middle?
Yeah, just straight into it, but really hard. Like I bump my head on things, right? You're bending down and you don't realize something's above you and you whack your head or you hit your head in your car when you get in. This was so bad, man. This hurt real bad.
Well, speaking of running into something.
Well, that's tough. I thought you were talking about me throwing up in the studio before we started too.
No.
You don't want to get to that too?
Yeah, what's going on with you? Like,
so that was unrelated to the C scan.
Throwing up. You were sick a few days ago.
You said this when I walked in today, the studio, half hour or so ago. You said, hey, can you do me a favor? I said, sure. Then you asked me to do something. And then I immediately, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm sure people had this before where just sort of you have no control and it comes up.
You got a waste can right over there.
Yeah. And I didn't want you to think that's what I thought of your request. So I quietly walked out of the room, handled it, came back. I feel fine, which is a momentary thing, but I have the trash can here just in case it happens again. But I don't know where that's coming from. But I have mildly thrown up today as well, too.
This is a great way to start the pod.
Great show.
Mildly throwing up. That's great.
We're excited to be here. We got a good email.
We did.
That we're going to read at the end of the pod with a Guess My PR. It's a combo. 2 questions and then a Guess My PR at the end.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Before we do that, we'll talk Bowerman because the Bowerman Award is getting handed out on Thursday night. We'll talk about that. We'll also answer any questions in the chat. We'll start first, though, with the news about Randolph Ross gets a 3-year suspension. We found out about this initially at the World Championships in Eugene, right before the first round of the 400 went off. Word came down that he was provisionally suspended. We now know that the suspension will last 3 years. Whereabouts violations and tampering centers around him altering an email that he used to explain why he missed that third and final test. He updated his address in the whereabouts system because he was between residences, moving from Greensboro to Knoxville, Tennessee, obviously, because that his dad, formerly the North Carolina A&T coach, was going to move on to University of Tennessee. Address apparently didn't fully get updated in the system. They went to his old address. He was at his new address. And the information, that email, he altered it. Thus, the 3-year suspension could have been 4, but he immediately admitted to it, according to AIU, and then knocked it down to just 3 years. Your thoughts on this case and the future for Randolph Ross?
Yeah, first of all, great story here in Track and Field News. I'm guessing they got an interview with Randolph Ross because he's at the Bowerman Awards, which is kind of weird, having a suspended athlete at the collegiate award ceremony. But we're in a weird world, right? With crazy times. But he did a good job of getting Randolph to kind of really detail what happened. Mm-hmm. And when I read through this all of his 3 missed tests and his trying to cover his tracks, it all came off very honest in my way, in my opinion. And it also came off as like, he just wasn't taking it that seriously of how important it is that if you screw this up, it's going to mess with your career. And I think he didn't realize it was going to mess with his career until after the 3rd one. And then he was like, oh, I don't want my career to get messed up. I'm going to then say I said the wrong date, and then it gets even worse. He kind of started digging his hole even deeper. And I kind of think this is a classic case of just a young athlete not really being educated enough to understand the magnitude of whereabouts and how serious AIU takes it. I mean, see Christian Coleman, he was like, I was getting a burrito and I didn't know, and all these things. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lack of, some athletes just aren't really aware of the magnitude of a simple mistake. And
here's the thing. You take the first mistake, and then a lot of times, not just in this case, but in any portion of your life or anybody's life, sometimes you try to fix the first mistake and you just compound the problem. Yeah. Right? You make a bigger mistake, which in this case was getting to the tampering level. Because I could see this situation just being a 1-year ban if there was no tampering, if there's just missed tests. We've seen that before. Yeah. Missed tests. Oh, it's supposed to be 2, but you cooperated. It gets knocked down to 1, especially because the Track and Field News article details this. And this is tough because, they don't release every single date of every single test. We really don't have that yet, but it feels like he was tested a bunch during this same time frame. You could have seen this get knocked down to 1, meaning he would have missed last year's World Championships, which for him would have been devastating. Worked his whole life, makes the home World Championships, but it would not nearly have been as bad as the prospect of being out for 3 years where you miss an Olympics and you're missing the prime Olympics of your career. And
for 400-meter runner.
Yeah, which is so valuable. So I know people usually don't think like that. They don't think in the moment of, oh man, I'll take this short-term lump because the alternative is so much worse. But that's what played out here, right? If you're reading along and following on the story, and I buy the story. Like I read the Track and Field News.
It did not seem fishy at all. It seemed very like, this is exactly what a 21-year-old would do.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but just like what we know of this process. And in his mind, right, he did a lot of things right. It wasn't like he was hiding. The second missed test.
Going away to like some nefarious campsite to stay away in the trees.
Right.
And he's probably also thinking like, they're testing me at NCAAs or they're testing me at USAs. Like, what's the big deal? And they don't realize like, it's not about how you can get tested 1 million times. They don't get the 1,000,000th and 1 time. Then none of the previous 1,000,000 mattered.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with an authority figure, whether or not it's the AIU, USADA, anybody, you don't want to lie. You don't want to present false evidence to them, right? That's just like, to them, the system can't operate if people aren't being truthful with them. So it looks like, according to the article, lost his scholarship at Tennessee, not allowed to compete because he has a suspension. Although it sounded like he was going to appeal it. right? Because technically it wasn't a positive test. It was for whereabouts. I don't know how that process will go. The article alludes to a swimmer from Stanford being in a similar process. So I don't know if there's going to be precedent for that by the time we get to it. But yeah, he'll be out until, let's see, the earliest he could come back would be 2025. And depending on when USA's are that year, could knock him out for those championships. Although second week in June, maybe he'll be back like right before USA's if he continues to train and continues to keep going.
Yeah, but no NCAAs. I mean, he would have been the prohibitive favorite in everything.
Huge favorite. Yeah,
because he's clearly better than a typical collegiate athlete at this level now when he's running 44-second lows, and so it's a bummer for Tennessee because they don't be able to have a secure 10 points there. But they got some good transfers coming in, which we'll talk about in the indoor rankings coming up in January. But yeah, him out of the mix of the 400 kind of opens a door. I mean, there was no Champ Allison in the 400. Now no Randolph Ross. Joseph Fambula, he was a 200-meter runner.
Well, you're talking about college. On the pro level, though, too. Right? He's coming up.
That's true.
Norman running solid there, but there was a lot of veterans behind Norman who were getting those finalist spots. Ross runs that year. Like, if he ran at Worlds, probably makes final.
Yeah,
right?
Probably medals.
He could have medaled. I don't know if I'm going to put him in there for sure, but he was running insanely fast. Remember, indoor season, they were targeting world record. Potentially could have got it in a mid-season meet. Him and Elijah Godwin bumped into each other in the midst of that race, and going to have to reset and wait several years now to have another go at it.
All in the game says Bowling should move up to the 400. Now, Bowling should stay in the 2 now that Fambula's gone. He's going to own that event.
Yeah. You want him in the long jump.
What?
Bowling?
Sure. I want him in the long jump. No, why would I never said that.
You always do the trick where like Matthew Bowling is going to win an NCAA title in the long jump as if you're pulling the wool over people's eyes that he competes in the long jump too.
Maybe this will get Fred Curley back in the 400.
I don't think this will impact Fred Curley's decision one way or the other. I don't think it will.
I want a Curley triple. That's what I want.
You might get it.
Actually, I want a how do you say 5?
The Curley quad? The quintuple?
I want a Curley quintuple. No, how do you say 6?
Sextuple?
I want a Curley sextuple.
What events?
1, 2, 4, 4x1, 4x4, mixed 4x4.
Oh, I thought you could go long jump.
No.
Put everybody in the long jump? No?
Yeah. So, anyway.
Right. So we got the Bowerman.
Speaking of Randolph Ross.
Well, we got the Bowerman.
The Bowerman is tomorrow.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, going to be an awkward situation on the
Before we get to this,
side. Yeah.
Can I have your power cord?
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you.
If I have to leave mid-show, though, due to health issues, I need that back.
That'd be great if that actually happened. No, it would not be great because health is a serious thing, but it would be funny. Like, I had to do stuff up and stuff.
Yeah. You definitely make some memes.
I would make some memes. All right. Let's talk about Bowerman.
Yeah, you want to do women or men first?
First of all, I got to get out of my way. Bowerman. They don't always get it right.
They didn't give it to Ches.
They didn't give it to Ches in 2016. Everyone knows he's the greatest. Not only the greatest to never win, but he's the greatest.
I'm just going to sit over here and let you
win
go.
and or never win.
Let Gordon cook.
He's better than most of the winners. You could probably take 80% of the Bowerman winners, and Chez's 2016 season was 10x better than all of them. I'm just saying. Come on. Like Ches versus Cam Levins, Ches was 10x better than Cam Levins.
You know what's funny? A couple weeks ago, you made fun of me for still being mad about the Astros cheating the Dodgers out of a World Series, and I just realized that was 2017, and you're talking about a Bowerman Award winner from 2016.
Hey, someone's got to say it. Someone has got to stand up for my boy Ed. It's a travesty.
Just listeners, viewers, be as passionate in your life as Gordon is about Ches not winning the Bowerman.
You know what's going to happen? You know what the NBA did yesterday or 2 days ago?
They decided to name the awards.
They named all the awards.
We should have done that. We should do that.
We should do that. That's a great pod idea. But they named the awards, like the MVP trophy.
Not a great pod idea. It's a very middling pod idea.
They named the NBA awards after different players.
Yeah. Oh, they should name the most valuable distance runner after Ches or something like that?
No, they just should rename the Bowerman the
Well,
Chesrack.
okay, so here's what they're doing,
They should
too.
call it the Chesrack.
No.
Or the Ches.
Bowerman's a great name to have associated with it. But here's the thing. They're just giving more awards out, right? They're giving a regular season trophy out. This is my thing. There should be more awards in track.
So, yeah, we have the Bowerman, and then we have the Chesrack. You have the...
So, in college football...
Who else can we have? This is save us for the pod. This is a great pod idea.
Well, we're on a pod right now.
Okay.
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, we are.
We're literally on a pod. Okay, so... But here's what...
No, are we on a pod or are we in a pod? I think we're in a pod.
So, the Heisman is the template for the Bowerman, right?
Yeah.
But in college football, there's all the different position awards,
yes.
right? There's the Blitnikoff Award, which makes sense, too, because
They're not
Heisman always goes to
quarterback, the best team.
running back, occasionally wide receiver, but very rarely outside of those groups, if at all. So it would make sense to have, the thrower of the year.
Yeah.
The distance runner of the year.
If distance runner would be the Chesrack.
I think, and would it be even at that point? Would it be fair?
I don't know. No, but you know what would happen, though? The Chesrack of the year winner would never win the Bowerman.
Yeah,
because they want to keep the bit going.
Yeah.
You can't get the Chesrack Award winner, also the Bowerman, because Ches never won the Bowerman.
Or maybe the Chesrack Award is just the person who got second in the Bowerman.
Yeah. Something like that. Runner up.
Like first place is...
Because like in the Wimbledon, they have like 2 trophies.
Wimbledon, yeah.
Like if someone gets like a
plate.
So it's like a plate, yeah.
It's just a
Why do they do that? Give a plate to the second place?
Well, you get...
That's kind
You don't think runner-up always gets something in tennis? I mean, runner-up gets something in track.
But it's also weird because you're basically getting the plate that you put the cup on top of. So it's like, you're forever like...
Are they related? I never put that together.
You have the cup and you put it on the plate and it's just like rubbing in your face. And you just got demolished by the person who owns the cup.
Yeah. Well, but what if then the next year you get the cup, then you have the set?
Maybe so for tea time, that's why they play tennis. I'm really thirsty, but I don't have the utensils. I'm going to train my entire life.
It's a source of motivation, perhaps.
Okay. All right, fair
enough. Like, hey, come back next year and complete the set.
Let's talk about the Bowerman.
Yeah, you want to do the women first? Let's break this down.
Sure. I mean,
let's break this down. Okay, so let's look at the individual cases for each one of these women. Caleb, you could pull up the little resume, little fact sheet on each one. Let's go first to Anna Hall. Now, I'll say this. We've talked about this award a lot because the season for the NCAA athletes ended in June. It is now December.
Yes.
And none of the performances are supposed to count outside of the NCAA season. So, in theory, they could have voted on this award 6 months ago. So, we've already talked about this a bunch.
Do we know when they voted for him?
Oh, no. I have no idea. Okay. I have no idea. But what I'm saying is we've talked about it a bunch just because we got the nominees. The season ended. Hey, who's it going to be? So my pick all along, and I'll talk more about why, was Hall. And I think just as the case for World Athletics, the women's field is really good. It's really hard to pick.
Very good.
And you can make an argument for all of these. So Anna Hall.
I would make an argument that the third woman should win over the first man. Like quality of resume wise.
Yeah. Maybe that's how they do it from now on. Just give it the top two regardless. So let's talk the nominees. First one, Anna Hall, indoor champion in the pentathlon, outdoor champion in the heptathlon. You see her all-time performances there. Just an amazing season for her. Incredibly versatile. So she's fourth in the pentathlon with that mark. And then where was she with the heptathlon all-time? She was second, I believe. Third, excuse me. No, number two. So she's number 4 all-time in the pentathlon and second outdoor in the heptathlon. But the most impressive thing about Anna Hall was the double. And by the double, I mean she did the 8th event because she did 7 in the heptathlon and then NCAA outdoors. She qualifies in the 400 hurdles. And she doesn't just run the 400 hurdles. She got second in the 400 hurdles. And she got second to Britton Wilson. And Britton Wilson was damn good this year. Britton Wilson went on to run in the World Championships. So Anna Hall had an incredible season, just showed the depth and breadth of her talent, put up some all-time marks, but the range is what impressed me the most with her.
Yeah. I will say, as great as double was, it would have been so much better if it was an actual winning double, right? Because she did get second to an all-time one the
But
best.
who even attempts the double when you do the multi-events? That's what's so cool about it. Who even could qualify, and then who even can do it
hold on.
in the heat of competition? That's pretty cool.
You can't say, though, participation is...
She got second. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
To a world-class, what was Britton Wilson this year?
Yeah, Britain's like...
Top 4 in the world this year?
She's like one of the best, not named Sydney.
Yeah. Which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That you just described most people walking around Earth.
I mean, Britton Wilson, I think you could argue could even be one of the nominees when you see her SEC, where she won the 4x.
You called it the greatest hour of track and field
ever. Yes.
Britton Wilson and SEC.
Stand by that. That would be the name of one of my awards. Greatest hour award. But not that I'm not using it as a way to criticize her achievement, because what she did was amazing. I'm just saying it would have been even greater if it had like 2 wins as opposed to a win. It just gets a little nullified when when you're bragging about a second place, because all the other athletes are going to have a lot of more cleaner resumes where it's like win, win, win. Again, Anna Hall does have a clean resume because in her actual event, it was a win in the pent.
I would agree with you if it was a traditional double, a 1 and a 2, a 5,000 and a 10,000. Sure, okay. But she went and did a heptathlon.
And then a 400 hurdle.
And not just any other event. The event that most people consider the hardest in all of track and field.
And it was an event that if she doesn't do, they don't win the team title.
Exactly. So that's the case for Anna Hall. Cameron Rogers. Pure dominance from Cameron Rogers. I mean, look at this. Collegiate record outdoor in the hammer throw. But she had 8 top 10 throws this year. 8?
8.
You look at the all-time hammer throw list for the women, it's basically Cameron Rogers. Cameron Rogers, Cameron Rogers, Cameron Rogers. Over and over and over again. I know we're not supposed to consider what they did at the World Championships. Hall medaled. Cameron Rogers also medaled for Canada. But just complete and utter historical dominance.
Yeah. The one, not negative, but like her indoor season is not as...
Not the same event.
Not the same event.
It's weight throw versus hammer throw.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And she got, 3rd in indoors in the weight throw?
She got... Scroll down. Yep, 3rd.
Yeah, 3rd. So that might hurt her eligibility, because that's the thing is you're going to have but like I say, because Abby Steiner also has a couple non-wins. Yeah. So none of them were perfect. So you can take away the need to be perfect to win. But Cameron Rogers, it's more about the depth and the fact that she not just won and broke a record, but you look at the all-time list, it just says Rogers.
8 in the top 10.
8 out of 10.
That's crazy.
She probably had 1 or 2 of the others from a previous season.
When there was a lot of discussion when the nominees got announced, some people were mad that certain people weren't on the list. And I said at the time, okay, if you're going to say that, who are you taking off? And if your answer is we'll take off Cameron Rogers, I'm saying you might as well just say hammer throwers aren't eligible then.
Yeah.
If you're not going to include someone who had this season, you might as well say we're just not counting that event.
If this doesn't count, then it'll never count.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, 8
out of 10.
8 out of 10. Next up, Abby Steiner. Collegiate record indoors, collegiate record outdoors. Obviously did amazing relay duty for the Wildcats. She ended the year with the 2nd fastest time in the 200 outdoors. That's hard to do.
In the world,
although that came at USA's, not in the collegiate season. But I'm just speaking to how good she was throughout the entirety
she won
of track season.
3 titles and 4 records. She also has the indoor 300 record,
which
everyone is clamoring about.
So Gordon's favorite indoor records, it goes 500, 300, 600 in that order, then maybe the 1,000.
Yeah, I guess 600-yard one.
She has some losses, again, but those are coming in shorter events, right? Like in the 60. She did lose to Favor O'Feely once
SEC's
in the 200. Yeah. So if you need to split hairs and things like this.
100 too then.
Yeah. I mean, the 100 I don't really count.
She wasn't really 100, yeah.
Yeah. In the same way I'm not going to count, well, we talked about Anna Hall, like not counting the 400 hurdles, but you do count it because she made the meet and got 2nd. So I think that's the case for Steiner. What do you think? Who's your pick?
So who's my pick?
Yeah.
Or who do I think is going to win?
Who's your pick? Who's your pick?
My pick? So for me to keep up with my I should pick Abby Steiner because I was all in on Abby Steiner all year. It would be kind of weird for me
You
to be
probably
like,
picked her in June, and then nothing should have influenced your vote from now to then because the results don't count, and then now you're going to change it in the next month?
I mean, I personally would pick Abby Steiner.
Okay.
I think she was more dominant in a more participated event. I think the competition level is a little bit higher in the sprints than it is in the hammer and in...
You're talking about globally, if you compare it globally.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's going up against, I just think they're excelling in... Not all events are equal. Like, they don't have all the same amount of depth of talent. And I think if you excel in one of the more marquee events, that should have a little bit of a weight to it.
Although that is sort of countered by the fact, I know we can't count what happened at Worlds, but Rogers went on to get silver.
Yeah, again, do you think silver in the hammer is the same as silver in the 100?
Well, I'm saying, are you comparing NCAA level of competition to the world? Because winning the men's 1500 at NCAA is not the same as winning the men's 100, right? Because the men's 100 is better at the NCAA level relative to the world than the men's 1500 is, right? We'd all agree on that.
Abby Steiner ran the second fastest time in the world.
Yeah.
To me, that's kind of similar to getting second at Worlds.
Yeah, no.
It's harder to, it's harder to maintain peak sprint fitness all the way through August or July, whenever the championship was, than it is to maintain peak throwing. Like,
what about heptathleting?
Yeah. I mean, just the amount of, it's just like.
Okay, so you're going with Steiner.
I'm going with Steiner, who I think is going to win, Anna Hall.
Okay.
Because of the double.
I went with Anna Hall early. Nothing has changed my mind because there's nothing allowed to change my mind because we don't count any of those results, although the fact that she medaled at Worlds.
All three of them medaled.
Yeah. Steiner in the relay.
Steiner got 2 medals.
Yeah, in the relays, which I know there's no heptathlon relay. There's no hammer throw relay, but it shows you the level of respect that Team USA had to put a rookie in the 4x1 and in the 4x4. They knew how good she was. They're all great. Not going to bore anybody.
That's the thing. Like, again, I think all three any other year would win.
Yeah, the same thing as the
like Cameron Rogers being third here. I think she would win pretty much 9 out of the past 10 years.
Yeah, I would say Hall just did something unique.
Yes, and that's why I think she's going to win.
And I think that's the tiebreaker for me here because, again, you got different cases being made depending what you emphasize. But I think we might see a season like the other two later on. It's going to be hard. I just don't think we're going to see someone like Hall do that again.
Anna Hall was told to do something extraordinary, and the extra and extraordinary was a 400-meter hurdle.
I don't know what to do with that.
I was trying to be deep.
Yeah.
But it came off.
Really fell short.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she did something extra. No one else did anything extra.
Again, and led to the team title. On the game says Abby ran the third fastest time. Shrika ran 21:45 and 21:55. Performer. Gordon likes performer. He doesn't like it when people run fast
multiple times. You don't get. You don't get.
And at 21:67, Abby ran the 4th fastest time. This just goes to show you how good Shrika Jackson was.
Yeah,
too.
no, but it was Shrika, and then.
Brandon says, does a non-win hurt more than a did not compete? It's ridiculous to think that getting second or third is worse than just skipping that event or skipping indoors.
I agree.
We need to reward competing.
I agree.
Yeah. Would Hall be nominated if she didn't do the 400 hurdles?
I would argue that if she doesn't do the 400 hurdles, Jasmine Moore would have gotten in.
Yeah.
Because Jasmine Moore would have been like 4 for 4, and Anna Hall would be like 2 for 2, and they'd be like 4 is better than 2.
Yeah.
But because now she did the 400 hurdles, they're like, oh, that's so cool and like different. And
yeah. Brandon has a good comp here. You'll like this one.
I'm ready.
Hall has a novelty factor. It's like Westbrook's MVP season. The triple-double average was so unheard of. Then when he did it again, nobody really cared. So yeah, if you're the next person to do this, then maybe we'll say, or we'll compare it to Anna Hall. We'll say, yeah, they did it, but they only got 6th in their second event instead of getting second. Or if they run the 400 hurdles, they ran a second slower than Hall did. But you do get bonus points for being one of the first. Didn't Oscar Robertson average a triple-double, though, too? It was the first since
but they did
it's a long time.
NBA does this weird thing where they just ignore, like, the first 20 years of the league for stat purposes.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue now that the Westbrook stuff is people ignore it more because the game changed, right?
Yeah.
Like there was
They realize getting rebounds at the foul for free throws shouldn't be as important.
Yeah. The value of it decreased in people's eyes. All right, shall we go to the men's side of things?
We should.
All right. So
Again, none of us picked Cameron Rodgers, but she is incredible.
no,
Don't let that.
if I had an order right now, I would say Hall, Rogers, Steiner would be my order.
I knew that would be your order.
What's your order?
Steiner, Hall, Rodgers.
Okay. By the way, why are you wearing an NAU shirt on this podcast?
Because it's really nice. It's comfortable.
You're supposed to be impartial. You can't be wearing other teams. Man,
Hey, you send me swag, I will wear it.
you hear that, folks? Send it
You want
over
me
to
to wear it in
Gordon's
school,
house.
coaches, athletes. I'll wear whatever you want me to wear.
Whatever, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send me. I'll wear it.
All right.
Why not?
Get some embarrassing T-shirts.
I'll wear you like your Twitter handle. I'll wear whatever you want.
Nobody wants their Twitter handle on you, dude. Stop. All right, men's side of things. Let's start first with Trey Cunningham. Obviously, tore up the high hurdles this year. I mean, ended his season with the medal in Eugene. Indoor champion in the 60, outdoor champion in the 110s. Number 2 time in the 60 behind.
Wait, sorry.
Number 2 in the 60 all time behind.
Grant Holloway.
In the 110s, number 2 behind.
Well, you confused me with 60 because I was like thinking of an actual flat 60.
Number 2 in the high hurdles behind.
He beat Roberts this time?
He ran even, right? So it's tied, I guess. 13 dead.
Yeah, behind Grant. Yeah, he's We
didn't think we'd see another Grant Holloway for a while.
Yeah.
And then
we did it though. He's not Grant Holloway.
He's right there. He got
yeah,
really,
but you can be really, but just as you can be within a win, but you're not.
With the what? What'd you say? With the
I was trying to say within an inch. He's not Grant Holloway.
Your voice turned into a turntable there. It was
He
interesting.
would only be Grant Holloway if he ran faster.
Real close. Way closer than I thought he would be. To his
100%.
credit. 13
Way
dead.
yeah.
I mean, Roberts was right there too.
But
he's running at the same time as Grant.
If you remove Grant Holloway from the universe, which would be a wild thing to do.
Don't do that. Don't do that, America or the world.
If I snap the fingers.
Do not remove Grant Holloway from the universe.
Okay, I won't do it. But if you did.
We need more Grant Holloways.
We do need more Grant Holloways. But if you did, we would be calling Trey Cunningham Grant Holloway.
No, we'd be calling him Trey Cunningham, and we'd be like, can you believe so-and-so almost ran Trey Cunningham's times?
Yeah.
8-0 total, 4-0 in the highs. Outdoors, 4-0 in the highs. Indoors.
Was he perfect? He's basically perfect.
He was. Yeah, he didn't lose.
He
didn't lose. A final.
Never lost.
Didn't lose a final.
Never lost.
Although it says indoors here. That's weird. He got third. That was probably. Was that a flat? Oh, that was flat 60. Sorry about that. Yeah. And they say versus collegians, but
yeah,
he was perfect. And again, just to cement his argument, you look at what he did against the best in the world, and
that was a heat that he ran into that he won.
Gotcha.
So the people that were in his lanes against him.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the case for Trey Cunningham. Let's go next to Aiden Owens Delerme of Arkansas, multi-event athlete. Won the decathlon outdoors, won the heptathlon indoors, number 2 in the heptathlon all time, and number 3 all time in the outdoor decathlon. He had a great season. Again, you talk about all-time marks in the collegiate multi-events. Ashton Eaton is in there, right? So you're competing against and Trey Hardy, some of the best to ever do it. So he was solid all year long. Heptathletes, just as we saw, and decathletes, multi-eventers in general, like we saw with Anna Hall, they don't compete a ton if they're not doing an individual event throughout the year, and you don't know how to compare what they're doing to what everybody else is doing. But he was great. He was great and had a great Worlds too.
So one thing I think that's kind of cool about him is that
he's from Pennsylvania.
He is? North Allegheny. What up?
Wexford, PA.
Yeah, boy.
Okay.
No. He not only did he won, but he won in a year where the guy who broke the collegiate record was competing, Kyle Garland of Georgia. Like the fact that because sometimes it can be weak years. You could argue it's the hardest year to win because the collegiate record holder was in the event that same year in his peak, and he beat Kyle Garland at NCAA Outdoors after Kyle Garland had broken the collegiate record. So I think that, and you could also look at indoors. Kyle Garland had already scored 6,200 points 3 times in his career, and Aiden Owens beat him at NCAA. So I just think it's like a unique thing where, yes, he went 2 for 2, but he went 2 for 2 against probably the hardest. Like Ashton Eaton didn't need to beat a Kyle Garland, right? Trey Hardy didn't need to beat a Kyle Garland.
Yeah,
but Aiden Owens
was good,
had to beat a Kyle Garland, and I think that should be a reason to kind of look at his 2-0 as maybe like a more impressive because you have the Kyle Garland factor.
Okay. Often overlooked.
Often overlooked. Yeah, and Aiden Owens did pretty well at Worlds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he was solid at Worlds. All right, and the final nominee, Randolph Ross. Again, this comes as he's under the announcement that he's going to be serving a suspension. I mean, people are probably going to argue whether or not his name should be even included in there. Now, just to say it, right, he didn't get suspended until after. That final missed test wasn't until after the season. So if you're looking at it just by the letter of the law, of the dates of when these infractions occurred, he was still eligible, obviously, to be competing at that point. The result that got nullified was his USA's result. It was not his NCAA championship result. So he wins indoors, wins outdoors. I think if you're looking at it purely just on what he did on the track, he kind of suffers the high expectations game here a little bit because he didn't go sub 44. Looked like he'd be able to potentially get that indoor world record. Didn't get it. He was perfect in 400s throughout the year. But I would say,
Randolph Ross was better in 2021.
He was number 3 all-time indoor in the 400. Didn't have an all-time mark outdoors.
He went 43.8 in 2021.
Yeah,
at NCAAs.
It felt like after the indoor season, he was just kind of gearing himself to get ready to make sure he just won and then qualify, got to USAs, and then got to Worlds, which, unfortunately for him, didn't get to run. This season felt more like a long game as opposed to a chase a bunch of collegiate accolades.
I think 2021 Ross would have potentially, is better than 2022 Ross, like you said, because he's focusing on bigger goals. But I was thinking 2021 Ross, even that Ross is still not something that I would take over who is my pick, Trey Cunningham.
Yeah.
Because, when Michael Norman and Fred, I think Ross was he had to go up against a Michael Norman or Fred Curley, the ghosts of Norman and Curley, to kind of really submit himself as I deserve it. Because I'm kind of mincing my words. I'm not being clear I'm being really bad at podcasting right now. This is a bad podcast segment. But I'm going to take this back. We're going to do a little quick rewind. Hold on. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Starting over. Randolph Ross in 2021 was better than 2022. Even Randolph Ross in 2021 is not, in my opinion, a Bowerman winner type resume because, if did Curley win it?
That's a good question.
Did Curley win it?
Let's look at that history here. Hold on. I got the history right here. Hold on.
Curley win it? Yeah, he won it.
2017.
No.
Sorry.
He didn't win it. Coleman won.
Yeah.
Curley had a better resume than Ross, and I feel like if Curley can't win it, then Ross shouldn't win it.
That's not the way it works. Top 3, I'm gonna go Cunningham, Owens Laramie, and then Ross.
Now I would do the exact same thing, and if I had to rank all 6 athletes, the top 3
which
women,
everybody wants you to do.
The top 3 women will go first, and then the 3 men.
The men, yeah.
And again, Cunningham's still great. Great. Maybe I'll put Cunningham 3rd overall, but Cunningham's great, undefeated, especially doing it like in the kind of the when you like when you leave like your tracks or something like that, like a car, is driving, and then like dust is like
when the dust settles.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? I don't even know what you're talking about.
People kind of like got the high of Grant Holloway, right?
Yeah.
And so typically it's kind of hard for people to get really excited about that event once the GOAT of that event is gone.
Okay.
So I feel like Trey Cunningham kind of had like we don't worry about the 100 hurdles, the 110 hurdles anymore. That was the Holloway time. He's like, we're not focused on that. And I think it's kind of hard to get like, people get excited for an event after you already had such a high from that event.
So what's that after the dust? With
the dust settled. The dust, like...
Okay, if you're watching
the
live
wreckage,
and you're in the
carnage,
chat, if you can figure out what Gordon's trying to say, if you can finish Gordon's metaphor,
like,
let me know.
Grant created all of this like excitement around that event, and then when you leave, the party's over, right? And like there's trash everywhere. Like you go to a house after a party.
Now there's a party? I thought there was just a car in the dust.
But imagine, okay, Grant Holloway throws a party. He threw a party, the 110 hurdle party.
So lost.
People having a great time. People reacting to the Roberts versus Holloway. You seeing the cool video of Holloway's face being frozen and running. You see the great quotes. You see Florida win, the 4x1, all this stuff. And then the dust settles, and this house is now trashed. There's cups everywhere. There's like stains. There's dust, right? And then Trey Cunningham shows up in suit and tie, ready for the party.
Yeah.
And he shows up and he's like, "Where did everyone go?" He goes, "Oh, Grant graduated. It's over. The party's, why are you here? Go home." But Trey's like, "But I just got all ready. I was training for my entire life. I'm in my perfect suit and tie. I'm ready to party now." So Trey Cunningham's like, "All right, well, I'm already here. I'm not going to go home. So I'm going to run my senior season." And so he does. And he runs amazing. And he's basically having a party by himself. And you, over time, you're realizing like Trey Cunningham is partying in like an empty house, but he's had some great dance moves.
Yeah.
And like slowly people are starting to come to, hey, actually, you know what? Yeah, the party was over Saturday night, but this Sunday party's actually popping a bit. And now you're realizing Trey Cunningham turned a hangover of a party into like a great rally. And that's why you should win the Bowerman. This made sense in my head. You know what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
That's a lie. No,
he's following a legend.
Yeah. Following a legend. And it's hard to like, the opening act was like a killer.
Now we have an opening act?
Yeah.
We have so many metaphors now.
It's like having to go after like peak Martin Lawrence. Peak Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
In the jumpsuit. You know jumpsuit Eddie Murphy?
Yeah.
Like when he killed? Imagine me going up there and doing my little jokes about talking about Princeton's cross-country team and failing miserably on those jokes. Trey Cunningham had to not just overcome legacy, and that's hard to do. But 13 flat, though.
Yeah.
I guess he broke 13 eventually.
All in the Game says such a long and torturous analogy. Well, you guys are a little bit behind. There's going to be more analogies to come. You don't even know the half of it. I'm living in the future.
Okay.
Brandon says Trey's new nickname is Billy Idol because he was dancing with himself at the party.
Yes, exactly. See, people are starting to feel it now.
I don't know. I think Brandon's just being a good sport.
No, Brandon gets it.
Good work, Brandon. All right.
I'm trying to compliment Trey.
I think that's coming through.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just let that be known.
This is from Noah. Huge fan of the pod. Started running during the first COVID summer in 2020 when all the team sports shut down, and I've been listening to you guys as I get more and more into the sport. A couple topics I'd love to hear your 2 cents on if you're ever looking to fill some airspace. Yes. We have 16 minutes. This is the time, Noah.
We're filling the space.
Cross-country team scoring.
Oh, we're going back
Not to beat the dead horse on the NCAA tiebreaker convo, but through all that, I was wondering why they haven't instituted some kind of weighted point system for the top finishers.
Ooh, I like this.
In Formula One, for instance, the scoring system for the top 10 is always first place 25, second place 18, third place 15, fourth place 12, fifth place 10. Point gaps get smaller as you go down the list. With that setup, it just puts a ton more importance on the race
up front.
finishers rather than letting 60th versus 10th place runners decide team titles. could lend itself to more exciting situations up front, like Charles Hicks having the chance to put the team on his back and at least push Stanford into contention by outkicking Nico rather than their finishing order having a 1 point fairly irrelevant effect on the team competition. It had a very relevant effect on the team competition this year, but I get his point. I'm not super brushed up on the history of the sport, so maybe this is something that's been tried out in the past, but just seems like a fun way to spice up the front of the pack races at these cross-country meets.
I love this side. The fact that the difference between first and fifth is the same as the difference between 40th and 35th is a travesty because they're not the same. It's very different to win and get fifth than it is to get 30. Getting 35th and 40th, that's the same thing. Getting first is not the same thing as fifth. And I agree with that. I think that there should be a weighted points to people who actually are competing at the top 10 level out of the 250 plus athletes.
Okay, what if it's weighted based on margin somehow, though, too?
That would be even crazier. I would love that even more because then it's all about.
So fifth is still really important, right?
But if you got fifth and you got blown out by a minute versus fifth by a lean,
yeah, exactly.
You should get more credit for the lean.
You should do this for next cross-country season.
So
now that nobody's taking your season plans seriously, you should try to just like reform the race. It's like make the race itself better.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll look at this year's race and I'll just rescore it according to the Noah-inspired Gordon algorithm
have to obviously
formula.
Bump it up though, right? Because they're not scoring as deep. So because first is 25. And then 10th is, maybe.
No, I'll figure it out.
250.
I'll figure it out.
Multiply it by a lot.
No, I can come up with the system.
Okay.
But I definitely like the idea that having people on your team who are really high up in this should matter more.
Yeah.
Because that's where it matters. Like, everyone's kind of just like, once you get past 40, everyone is kind of just like the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like kind of luck. There's no luck in first to fifth. There's luck in 35th to 40th.
Yeah. Well,
there's no luck in first to fifth. That is purely you're a better runner.
Between fourth and fifth, there's luck.
No.
Yeah, there is.
No.
You could go look in some top fives and be like, how did that person beat that person?
No.
I'll give it to you like first and fifth, like on that day. Anyway, all right, marathon. His next topic. You ready for him to tackle the marathon now?
How many questions have we got?
2 questions, and he has to guess my PR.
Okay.
He just started running in 2020.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, this is cool.
PR is probably better than ours.
I looked at it. I know so I'm not going to give it away because I'm quizzing you. All right, I'm mostly focused on running the marathon distance. So in becoming a bigger fan of the sport, I've become frustrated, like many, that we barely ever watch the best of the best race against each other as they naturally scatter across the majors. It almost seems like the same pitfall that's been holding boxing back, where TV contracts, etc., are stopping the best boxers in the world from fighting each other. I think the marathon has all the potential to become one of the top televised sports. It's 2 hours and change, an event like the Formula One races, soccer games, lots of big names, ups and downs throughout every race. But it seems like it's holding itself back by not being able to drum up any real rivalries between the top dogs and showcase the top talent going head-to-head over and over again. It seems like a plausible fix, to create a rotation amongst the majors so that while all 6 retain their titles World Marathon Major, only 2 each year are highlighted per se as an elite major with a much larger, more concentrated prize pool given to that race to incentivize the top runners. If there was a spring block, Tokyo, London, Boston, and a fall block, Berlin, Chicago, New York, and only one of each was highlighted as the elite majors in a given year, do you think World Athletics could corral at least 70 to 80% of the top runners to race those 2 events each year? Something like 2023, Boston and Berlin, 2024, Tokyo, Chicago, 2025, London and New York. Obviously, things get kind of funky with world champs, but I think if there were an Olympics, but I think there was an expectation that every elite marathoner was going to race each other in the spring, and then again in the fall, you could really drum up more suspense and excitement for these races. The 4 majors each year that aren't up in the rotation would lose that elite spark, but I'm sure wouldn't suffer too much in terms of general attendance, interest, and would give the chance for a lesser-known marathoner who maybe didn't qualify for the elite field at those highlighted races to show up and make a name for themselves. Just some food for thought. Would love to hear you guys' takes. Also, throwing in a quick guess my PR below if you are looking for those still. Thanks to the great content. That is Noah.
Okay. Kevin, you are the owner?
Yes.
/ GM
Yeah.
of the Dodgers.
Yes.
And I am the owner / GM of the Phillies.
Good job not getting Correa. Go ahead.
Okay. The year is 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get to sign whoever you want. All right.
Yeah.
But on even years, I get to sign whoever I want.
Yeah.
So even if the person I want wants to play with you, sorry, even year, I get this person.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, you're going to get the odd years. We're going to work together. I want the Dodgers and the Phillies to work together because we want to make sure we both have a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And let's just tell Major League Baseball to tell us that we have to take our foot off the gas on odd and even years. Do you think that would work?
Well, no, because they're in direct competition with each other.
And that's why this idea wouldn't work. There is no incentive for Tokyo to be like, oh, yeah, London, you can have the spotlight this year. We'll just wait till next year.
Yeah. No, there needs to be a person above it all, and there isn't, who can say, because what you could do, and what I've heard proposed before, I've heard this idea before, but what you do is you make the men's in one location and the women's in the other. So two of the three then would have at least one marquee race.
And
so
Boston would be like, screw you, we want both.
Well, right, exactly. But that's,
why do we have to do what London tells us to do?
That's the problem.
You're in a totally different country.
But this is so representative of not just the marathon issue, but track as a whole, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody
owning out at all,
overseeing the entire thing. Because would you agree this would be unequivocally good?
Yes.
For everybody involved?
But it only works if everyone running the meets was the same person.
But what's the only group of people that loses out under the system?
Oh, the meet managers?
Right.
Yeah.
But like the fans went out.
Yeah.
The athletes theoretically went out because it's more it's easier as a television product, right? If it's like the men's race in Boston is the marquee one this year and the women's race in London, you can just focus on that one race the entire time.
So are you implying that the real problem with our sport is meet directors?
The real problem with our sport is nobody's collaborating. And they don't have, I wouldn't either. If I was them, if my job is the Tokyo Marathon race director, my job is to make the best Tokyo Marathon.
Not the best sport.
Right. But there should be someone above that says, hey, this is where, right? Like the Las Vegas Bowl doesn't get to say, hey, this year, the national championship, it's going to be on December 21st in Las Vegas. No, someone has stepped in college football.
Yeah.
Now they can invite different colleges and different schools to these different games, but then there's an understanding of where the marquee games are going to be and where the marquee teams are going to play, right? It's just you need some sort of parameters around it because it would be cool. In this generation, a little different because it's like the demand is Kipchoge on the men's side. Everybody wants to see Kipchoge. Women, it's awesome, but it's spread out amongst this ever-growing pool of women who seemingly are capable of running 2:15. But even that would be awesome. You get all of them there, but in one spot competing against each other. So I think it's a great idea.
It's a great idea, but the idea just falls apart when you realize that, like you said, our sport is not designed where it's a bunch of individual meets pretending like they're in some league,
and they're not. Yeah, they're not.
You call it the World Majors. That's not. The Boston meet director and the New York City meet director aren't like being like, how do we make our events better together? No, they're still like, we just got to follow these low tier guidelines. But at the end of the day, we're going to get everyone that we want.
They have different budgets too, right? They have different priorities. Some marathons
like
just
participation.
Some of them want the fastest people. Some of them want
the depth,
want the representation from throughout the world. So they all have different goals. Because here's the other thing too. What's to make every athlete then go? You'd have to have such a bigger prize purse and such a larger appearance fee budget available for that one marquee marathon.
You need world majors to outbid Boston BAA, basically.
Well, or any other marathon. Because then what's to keep someone from just skipping it and saying, well, I'm going to go to, like, what if Kipchoge says, I want to go to Amsterdam? They're not in agreement with any of these.
Yeah.
Everybody's a free agent, right? Everybody's operating their interests. So if Amsterdam can offer him more money, but it's like tennis, right? Like you have other tournaments, but everybody understands that when it comes time for Wimbledon, it's going to be Wimbledon. And I don't think Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal is getting an offer to play in a competitor to Wimbledon, right? It just doesn't exist.
Well, golf, it's happening, but that's backed by like Saudi oil. So
yeah, Well, because it got
tour.
it got up to such a ridiculous monetary amount that it is. But that you can put that in a different bucket. But also with, and I think I haven't been following this story crazy close, but isn't part of the pushback like the prestige of what it was, like the PGA, like this is like I remember Tiger Woods appealing to the historical nature of each one of those events. That's sort of what the marathon would have to lean on too.
Yeah.
Like, why do you go to Boston? Because it's Boston. Like you win Boston, you're gonna make a name for yourself. But I like it. I like the idea. It won't work. It won't work.
Cross country idea, I like too.
Yeah.
No, man, he's got great ideas.
Thomas says Formula One has crashes. Marathons don't. People want to see crashes. Fair.
That's fair. Is that what they watch it for? Just the crashes?
I mean, there was a Netflix show about it. Did you know that?
No. Everyone tells me about it. It's crazy the way Austin gets when we have that event here.
Yeah. Well, Austin gets.
We act like it's such a big no one here knew about this until 3 years ago, and now they act like they're the greatest F1 fan.
It popped on their home screen on Netflix.
Oh my god!
Just like Verstappen.
It's like can't wait to F1 weekend. I'm like,
Brandon says Boston not doing what London wants is how we got this country in the first place.
Exactly.
And Brandon's like winning the comment section today.
He might get a gift card.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, when are we doing a gift card?
Well, I'm going to bring him in on Friday. Then we're going to write the.
We're doing a gift card giveaway on Friday.
Well, no, I'm going to bring them in so you and I can figure out how much is on each.
Okay.
And then I think we should do it the holiday week.
Okay.
Yeah, next week.
We can't do that pre-record. We got to do that one live.
Yeah, we'll do that Monday. Let's see.
What was the PR? I'm guessing.
Oh, you want to guess my PR?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
Show. Here we go. Got 3
one.
minutes.
We do only have. I'm getting ready for a spring marathon. This is Noah, but
how old do we know his age?
Don't know his age.
Okay.
Just ran a 20-second 5K PR, my first indoor race last weekend. So you're guessing his Here, I'm going to move my computer this way.
I'm not going to look. Why would I cheat?
You're guessing indoor 5K. Other PRs: mile 4:55, 10K 36:23, half marathon 1:25:07. 2 weeks out, he did some 800s, some 600s, some 400s, some 200s, and a tempo, 6-mile tempo. 800s 248, 246. 600s 158, 158. 400s 74 and 70. 200s 32 and 31. 6 miles, he did at 5:53 pace. 1 week out, 1 week before he ran this 5K. 6 times 600 with a 400 jog rest, 150, 51, 149, 149, 152, 150. And then he did a K in 3:14, and then he did 7 miles at 5:57 pace. You're not going to pay attention to the case.
You do realize the amount of numbers you're giving me is ridiculous.
Yeah, I just read what the listeners provide. What do you want the 600s again? 150?
How am I supposed to
151?
I don't think you understand. You're saying so many numbers. How am I supposed to do all this math in my head?
You're not supposed to do math.
Listing numbers.
No.
I'm like,
you're not supposed to do math. You're supposed to intuitively know. You get a feel. Do you think
it's a vibe? Oh, so this is just a vibe only.
Do you remember?
You could say.
Hold on. Pause. There was a moment. You told me the story. A friend of yours was preparing for some race, and you told me you went up to Mike Smith, and you gave Mike Smith some workout details. Did he not nail the time? The range?
Yeah.
Did he write it down on his computer?
No.
Mike Smith, he didn't even have Excel, man.
No, he just like, this person will probably run this, and then that person ran that.
Yeah.
Plus minus 10 seconds.
So it's a 5K, did a 6-mile tempo at 5:53.
But I'm not Mike Smith.
And you're wearing the shirt, man. 7 miles at 5:57. What did Noah run? Remember, he started running in 2020. He's fast. It's impressive. Yeah. You're laying down those tempo runs 2 years into your running career? What did you do before this, Noah? I need to know more.
I think it would be easier for me if you only gave me one workout and his best workout.
Okay, fine.
What was his best workout?
His best workout?
Yeah.
Well, that's up to him. I mean, the tempo run
beholder.
Yeah, tempo run. The one that will give you more info is the 800s and the 400s. You like that. 248, 246. And then he ran some 400s, 74, 70. 200s, 32, 31. And then the tempo, 5:53.
Okay, I'm going to go.
He has a 4:55 mile PR and a 36:23 10K PR. He's prepping for a spring marathon. He writes good emails, and his name is Noah.
1740.
Wow. I need to replace you. You are no Mike Smith, sir. 1633.
Off by a minute.
1633. And what we both can say was Gordon's worst showing in Guess My PR. He undersold Noah by over a minute.
He has a slow 10K then.
He's just getting into it, man. Oh, Thomas almost nailed it in the chat. 1639. Well done, Thomas. Unless he knows Noah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get real close to
I don't know, man.
That's impressive, man.
Guy's
been running 2 years.
I think his 10K is a minute off now.
It's a minute too slow?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I said that.
Well, he just may not have had the opportunity to run a fast one.
Makes sense.
Indoor race.
Yeah, it's the first one, so yeah, now his 10K is not really matching
isn't that
up.
cool? He started running 2 years ago, and then within 2 years, he's running indoor races. Like, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I feel like you just dabble in some road races.
Yeah.
He's like jumping right into the
Like
indoor
200-meter
racing.
bank track.
Yeah, and not like an all-comers summer outdoor meet. Like, yeah, bank
We're going
track.
for it, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Got the Christmas tree spikes.
Awesome. Thank you to Noah for writing in. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in live. Subscribe, if you can, to the FloTrack podcast YouTube page.